Gents, let's now focus on the first big topic today. Cristiano Ronaldo and the report saying that he can leave in January. He can move on from Manchester United. A report from The Telegraph is saying that Erik ten Hag is now open to him leaving, even though for most of the last few months, Erik ten Hag and the hierarchy at Old Trafford have basically said, you're going nowhere. You're staying with us. We're going to figure it out. We're going to make it work. Andy, I'm going to come to you first. What are your thoughts on this situation with Ronaldo? And is it really a surprise that already he's trying to get out the door and finally Man United are going to seemingly let it happen?
Yeah, they probably, and we've talked about this how many times, how many shows have we done this season? We've talked about it probably just about every single one. The time was this summer. The time was at the deadline. The time was when he came out, kicked up a fuss, and put the onus and put the responsibility of him leaving onto himself. It wouldn't have been Manchester United pushing out a legend of the club, a legend of the game. It would not have been that. They had a free out. The player said, I want to leave. He clearly kind of foresaw what this season was going to look like for him personally, maybe for the club as well, and the struggles, the challenges that a club faces in a first season under a new manager, a manager who has such a tactical philosophy and identity, one that obviously Ronaldo doesn't really fit into. The writing was on the wall for everyone in the world to see. If the three of us sitting here in our homes across the world can see it before the season starts, well before the season starts, I don't know how nobody at United saw it, and I really truly at this point don't know how he's still there.
It was just stubbornness, right, Nick? I think from their point of view, it's like he's a superstar. We're going to make this work. We don't want to give him up to anybody else and see him go and succeed in the Champions League. And that, for him, is the big issue, right? United aren't in the Champions League this season. Obviously, he wanted to keep that legacy going. Do you think this is the correct decision for United and Ronaldo? And like Andy said, does it just kind of prove all along that Ronaldo was actually right in the summer? He gave United an out and said, look, my playing style does not fit in Erik ten Hag's playing style. We've seen that early in the season, right? Whenever he's played, doesn't look like a good fit. Whether that's on his effort levels or the playing styles, some people will say that's a little bit up in the air. But do you think this is the correct time now for United and Ronaldo to part ways for a second time in his career?
Well, I'm speculating a lot here. So admittedly, this is not based on fact or reporting or anything like that. But I look at this guy and I just think he's at a point in his career where even if he wanted to do that, I don't know that he could at a relentless level. And I don't think he had the suitors in the summer. I imagine that him reportedly can leave in January is something I don't know what it is, but it's something along the lines of him going into the office and saying, okay, you can buy out my contract, or okay, I'll do this, or I will accept a move here. I think that's what it is, because the people who wanted him this summer, even when we heard whether it was Chelsea or Atletico Madrid, they weren't the right sort of fits where you're like, well, either A, they could pay him, or B, he wasn't a fit. So something has happened where you could read it in his face on the sideline where he wasn't put into the derby. That wasn't about the respect they have for Ronaldo as a player. That was him having the clarity of, okay, whatever I got to do, I have to take a hit. And that may even mean going and playing in the Middle East or MLS or somewhere else who can pay him. But he has accepted his fate. I will be very surprised if him leaving doesn't involve tearing up his contract, if he's going to a team in like a Champions League spot, or going to a team that you would never have predicted him going to.
Yeah, you made a great point there, Nick. After the Manchester derby, obviously he didn't come on. He was an unused substitute in that 6-3 defeat for United at City. And Erik ten Hag was asked about that and said it's out of respect for his career and the kind of player and the legendary figure he is. So the writing's on the wall there for sure. There's almost an acceptance that it's only heading in one direction right now. And Andy, I think now it's all about for Ronaldo just trying to get as many minutes as he can in the Europa League or the odd Premier League game. Make sure he's fit for Portugal to have a breakout World Cup, if you want to call it that, from the current malaise and the situations he's in at United. Show the world once again what he can do and then get himself a move. It seems like he wants to stay in Europe. That's always kind of been his aim for this next step on from Man United. I mean, for a Champions League team, we'll know then who's in the last 16. For quite a few of those teams, they'll probably want to take a punt on Ronaldo, thinking, right, it's a knockout situation here. This is a guy who can pull something out of nothing. We saw it all season long for United last season. I mean, where could he legitimately go? Because Juventus, if they get through to the last 16, could be one. He could maybe go back to his old club Sport in Lisbon if they've made a great start to the group stage. I mean, there are maybe a couple of options, but again, like Nick said, not a good fit from a playing style or from they're going to pay him style, basically. So his options, like they were in the summer, are very limited, which is crazy to say for a player of his quality.
Yeah, I think this one's pretty obvious where he's probably going to go if he leaves in January. Sporting makes all the sense in the world to me, especially if they can get into the knockout rounds of the Champions League. I think if you just look at the decision to go back to United, it was objectively a very bad fit for everybody involved, and yet he went back there. Why? Because he knows he is loved there. And I think above all else, he doesn't, sure, he wants money. He's got a lot of money. I don't think he's going to go chase money in the Middle East the way that some players do. I think going back to somewhere he knows he is the guy, the hero, the one that everybody bows down to, I think is at this point of his career, especially as he's beginning to deteriorate and he's not the player that he used to be, and he's not playing at the same level. I think that is what he's going to value above all else. And so I see him ending back up in Portugal in January. And, that's probably great for the Portuguese league. If you really, really think about it, to bring a player like that home at the end of his career, we've seen a couple of teams make some runs in the Champions League the last few years. It can be a real boon for club football, at least back in Portugal.
Yeah, absolutely. And just after a World Cup where he's the star for Portugal again, to kind of go back home and then just carry on that momentum where potentially they look like one of the dark horses to go far in Qatar as well. So yeah, that could be a really interesting option, and I think one of the only options he has now. So I'm going with you, Andy. I think that's a great shout. Nick, quickly, how would we look back at Ronaldo's second stint at United? Obviously, scored a lot of goals, dragged them through the Champions League at times last season. Hasn't been a disastrous spell by any stretch of the imagination, but that's from like an individual perspective, right? From a team perspective, it never really was a good fit, like we've always said. But I don't know if it tarnishes his legacy as a United great, because people are still going to remember the fantastic goals in the first and second spells and say, you know what, he came back, he tried to do what he could. It didn't work out, but we love him for coming back and trying to help us out. Is that how you kind of see it?
No, because let's wait. Well, yes, for now. But let's wait until we see that press conference we were going to hear at the end of August that would make everything very clear. Remember? Because he thought he was leaving then, and it's only been like a month and a half. So he's let's wait. He's going to tarnish his legacy. I just have this gut feeling he will. Has the time he spent in the last year and a half? No. He scored some big goals for them. There are adequate scapegoats in took me a minute to even think of Rangnick's name. And I couldn't even remember who took over for Ole for a second there. So, yeah, he's got an out clause right now, but just the way he's spoken and the things that he's done, especially if United keeps improving. And whatever we want to talk about the derby, I think they're still improving. And if they keep getting better and then he leaves, people will be like, well, that was probably a mistake, but we love him for what he did 15 years ago.
That's very true. And I think we can all agree that with Rashford, Sancho, Anthony Martial up top, that fits Erik ten Hag's system a lot better. Ronaldo saw that coming, tried to get out in the summer, and it looks like United are now finally agreeing with him and saying, look, mate, you can move on in January as long as we get a half-decent offer or you do, we can make some kind of agreement. And it seems like now that's the only way this is going. But head over to Pro Soccer Talk for the latest transfer news around Ronaldo and everything else going on. We'll have analysis on that and a lot more over at PST.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. For even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend on USA Network and on Peacock. We will see you over there.